Welcome, everyone. We're going to wait just a minute or two for any stragglers, and then we will get started with today's session. Okay, I'm going to take the lull in the music as an opportunity to get us started, and I'll let people in as they're joining. But welcome to our June edition of the Elevated Admin Community. I'm Eileen, your host, and I'm also the Community and Education Lead at Delegate Solutions. I lead our learning division, which houses our delegation training and coaching services. So I get to train business leaders, their admins, and sort of all layers of the organization to help them embrace a culture of delegation throughout. I'm based in Raleigh, North Carolina, where I reside with my husband and 2 children, and I'm super excited to have you all joining us today. And for those of you listening in after, I hope you enjoyed today's session. As a reminder, the purpose of the Elevated Admin Community is to connect, learn, share, grow, and develop together. We are our greatest educators when it comes to the admin world, and each of us has certainly tackled different challenges in our roles. And while this group was created to help you learn from experts, it was more so created so that we can leverage our greatest strengths learning from each other. So our agenda runs the same each month. And so if this is your first time joining us, this is what it looks like. The first half of our session is always focused on our guest speaker or our expert in a particular subject matter. That will help make our jobs and lives easier as assistants. And after the speaker, we enter into our shared learning breakouts. This is our time to leverage our collective brain power and experience to share new ideas, tools, tricks, or even brainstorm solutions to issues and challenges that we may be facing in our role. We'll end with some announcements, and hopefully by the end of the hour, you will leave feeling like you've added to and improved your toolbox. And feel like you are leaving with some new skills and knowledge you can put into action immediately. So without further ado, I want to jump into our topic for today. I'm thrilled to have our boss lady at Delegate here as our guest speaker. Emily Morgan helps leaders and their teams create freedom to do more of what they love and increase their impact. She is the founder and visionary of Delegate Solutions, a delegation company, and the creator of the Delegate Freedom System, which has helped thousands of busy entrepreneurs master delegation and reclaim their time and energy. She's also the author of Let It Go. Emily speaks nationally on the topics of delegation, remote workforces, and entrepreneurship, and has been featured on CNBC, Forbes, Inc., HuffPost, the New York Times, and NBC News. And our company has been ranked one of the fastest growing companies in Philadelphia. So she knows what she's talking about, having helped all these business leaders support their delegation journeys. And I'm excited for our topic today. So Emily, I'm going to stop sharing so you can share your slides and turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you for having me, of course. Welcome, everybody. I know Kelly, I don't know the rest of y'all, but it's great to have you with us today. So we are going to talk through some of the top delegation tools that you can bring to your work with the leaders that you're supporting. And all of these tools will be, available to you through Eileen. If you need them at any point, feel free to reach out and ask. But as I go through each tool, we want to look at not only processing the tool and how we use it, but where we've seen different leaders get stuck. So this is a little bit interactive. So I may ask you to come off mute and just sort of share your experiences with working with different leaders and how you might be able to incorporate them into your day-to-day. So the first tool that we're going to look at is the Delegate Freedom Analysis. And this tool helps us understand where we are most impactful with our time which is really the foundational part of creating a successful delegation strategy. So if you're familiar with EOS, you might have heard the term delegate and elevate. That's a very simplified version of this. Ours is more thoughtful in the way that we built it out so that we really refocus time and energy on impact. And that's something that I talk a lot about in the book. So this tool is great to use with with leaders who need to figure out what to let go of. They might have already been delegating and are looking for new areas to shed. They also need to understand the impact of the time that they're wasting and what it's actually costing them. Or they might want to look at their time more objectively. So I also, as you use a tool like this, we have a resource called Sample Task to Delegate, which is great for brainstorming what else can come off your plate. And you can get that from Eileen as well. I'm sure she'll share those things afterwards. So this is the tool, the Delegate Freedom Analysis, and you can have leaders that you work with do it themselves, like have a scheduled time block where they sit down and perform the exercise, or you can coach them through it verbally. But I'll give you just a quick update of the 4 quadrants and how the exercise works. So the first thing you want to do is start up here in the top left area. And if you're prompting them through it, talk to them about what they want to spend their time on. What do they love doing? They could spend all day doing this and never get tired. For me, it's usually like creating relationships, building tools, doing fun stuff with Eileen to build out content, like just doing thought leadership work on our area of delegation is what I would put in that box. And the point up here is that a lot of the times where people get stuck with delegation is they're going to clear things, they're going to clear things off their plate, and then they're going to just refill the time with more work that doesn't make any kind of impact. And then they feel like delegation hasn't worked for them. So the idea is that we get really clear on what we want to spend our time on first. And then what will happen, we're going to work through the different quadrants of the bucket, but we're always going to start up here. So I'm going to coach you through each one of these, but this is really the steps. We do 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then I'll show you how to take this and turn this into something you do with your leaders. So top left, we always want to start with the positive. That's going to give us a good frame of mind, good energy, thinking about all the things we want to be doing, and framing it up in terms of impact. So what impact are you trying to make? What could you do all day and never get tired? So we start with a positive frame of mind, and then we drop down to the bottom right. So if you go back to the full thing, we're going 1, and then we're going down here to 2. So 2 is what we could call the suck bucket. So what are the things that you're spending your time on that is brain drain? It's totally sucking your energy. You'll hear a lot of leaders say scheduling, working on my email, following up with my team, or having to research fax machines, which I know that's outdated, but something like that, some sort of gadget or something. And so these are the things that they dread doing, but it's sort of like hangs out in their brain and takes up space. As we start to capture some of these items, in parentheses, try and get them to focus on how many hours per week they're spending on that activity. So 2 hours a week, 10 hours a week, 5 hours a week, and then just sort of getting a sense for things that they're doing and how much time they're taking. Then we move over to the bottom left to section 3. So this is the martyr zone. This is work that you or they are doing that you don't like it, but you're kind of good at. People think that that's part of your work because there's no one else to do it. But you find yourself doing it and being annoyed about it. So some examples are creating process, keeping things moving, like project management, setting up systems that the team can follow. So get them also to attribute some time to how long they're spending in that section. So that puts us, we've done 1, and we've done 2, and we've done 3. So now we're going to go up here to 4. And 4 is the upper right section. So this is probably the hardest one to coach them through, because this in some cases is work that they might think is what they're here to do. So they like doing it, but it's not their most impactful contribution. It doesn't give them energy, but they enjoy it and they're good at it, right? And so we call this section the letting go of excellent section, because this is the hardest one to unpack, because a lot of the times we are attributing our contribution and our impact to what's hanging out up here. So as you sort of talk them through what is living up there, there might only be one or two things in that section. But if you find that there's quite a few things in that section, what you want to do is prompt them to think about the activities that are listed there in terms of whether they're doing it more than once. Because if they're doing it more than once, it's repeatable. We can turn it into a process, and then someone else can replicate that process and make it repeat. And so that's really the big prompt to put there. That's like the big aha statement to ask is, do you need to be doing this? Why do you need to be doing this? Is this something that you could explain to someone else how to do? In which case it's delegatable. But I think what to look out for up in this quadrant, especially if you're working with entrepreneurs, is it's a scary section to talk about, because they're attributing their contribution to it in some cases. And they might say, well, if I'm not doing that, what am I doing all day? And that's a really moment of reckoning for them. So now the form is all filled out. We want to circle the top left, because that's where we want to spend our time. And then we're going to circle the bottom 2. And we're going to walk them through the next part of the exercise. Before I do that, so as you're coaching them through it, what you're going to do is add up the number of hours that are living down here. So 2, 4, 1, 3, 10, 5, 2. Add that all together. Let's say it's like 20. And that's going to come into the next part of the exercise, where we're going to bring some illustration to it. So let's say it's 20 hours. The idea is that we take these activities, we find ways to get them off our plate. And rather than just letting more things creep in that we don't like, we're not good at, or we're sort of being a martyr for, we're going to try and make sure that we are refilling it with things that are up here. So using time blocks for these, as you move 5 hours off someone's plate, replace them with a time block to work on writing, or a time block to go have coffee with people, because their impactful contribution is building relationships. So whatever you're subtracting up here, think about how to add it back in up here, or just reduce the overwhelm in general. But that's one of the big things we see people get stuck with, is they'll clear these things off their plate, and then they just refill them with more of those things, and it never feels like they're making progress. So as we go through the exercise, the next step of this that you can pull out to really hone in on the message is, what is this really costing you in real life? So if we go with the number of 20 that we pulled from the bottom half of the last sheet, and we take an annual salary. So in this example, I did 250,000. An FTE equivalent is 2,080 hours. So we divided 250,000 by 2080 hours, and that gave us $120 per hour. Then we take the $120 per hour and we multiply it by 20, and we're left with $2,400. So the way that you would present that is, you're spending $2,400 each week paying yourself to do work you don't like and you're not good at. And that can be really illuminating and powerful. So experience share on the first tool. Where have you seen leaders get stuck with this exercise? Have you ever coached a leader through something like this? And are there ways that you can incorporate this into the work that you're doing? Open for shares. I don't know if they're muted. They're all muted.
Yeah, you're welcome to unmute if you have something to share with these. I was going to say, I think I see leaders get stuck in that upper right quadrant because they think, because I'm good at it, then it must be something that is an impact or a positive, it's something they need to hold on to just because they have that natural talent.
Yep. Hi, Maria. Did you have a share?
Hi. Yeah, that was awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm sorry I jumped on a few minutes. I missed the very beginning. So all of these are like I can see how my clients it's the whole enchilada that they're dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily just one of them. They're making a contribution in their work, yes, but letting go. I think asking for help, like asking, getting rid of the shame and the guilt of the stuck bucket stuff, that it's totally draining them, but there's a lot of shame and guilt with professionals that they don't want to ask for help in a certain area.
Yeah.
Because they're embarrassed.
Yeah.
And so I've been able to strengthen my coaching and leadership skills by just kind of like taking them out of the zone 3, you know, get out of the martyr zone, and you know, you're delegating to me now. Good for you. Like there's a lot of encouragement that they need, that hey, it's okay that you hate doing this, and thank you for asking for help.
Yeah.
You know, let's just get it done. So yeah, these slides are great.
Thank you. Yeah, I think, go ahead.
I was going to say, to Maria's point, I think too, a lot of times they don't want to ask for help because they think someone else is going to dread doing that work. And I think to remind like the people you work with that for a lot of assistants, the things that they don't enjoy doing are the things that we get excited about and really enjoy, like we nerd out on. And so
I get to put something in order. Yay.
I know there are people who love that kind of work. So it's about like figuring who that right person is to delegate that task to. So they shouldn't feel good because it's going to actually invigorate and excite someone.
Yeah. Yeah, I like these slides, and I'm thinking like this is a great, like the ones a couple back. I was looking at it as kind of a, you know, a strategy call, like before you get onto a call with a new client. These are great questions to ask, you know, where are you spending your time that you really just, it's the suck bucket. I love it. Like, let's start there.
Well, you can also talk to
the brain drain.
Yeah, like if this represents a pie of your whole life. If you're working with entrepreneurs in particular, like it's a big mosh pit in our brains. And so there's no separation between personal or professional. So that's another thing to mention, like put it all out here. Like, you know, I'm like researching things for my sheep and like all this kind of stuff I need to get. And that's all just one big pot of things that I don't need to be doing.
Right.
But just remember the point, like as you identify the things down here to free up, we want to try and refocus them up here to replace that time. Awesome. Well, I'll go on to the next tool.
And the money, I mean, the facts don't lie. So when you break it down and do the numbers, that's really impactful.
Yeah. And that'll resonate with a business leader in general, you know, when they think about how much it's costing them to not address this issue.
Right.
Great. Thanks for sharing.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay, so tool number 2 is the elevated week. And this is a tool that you can use with leaders that have an employee that they want to maybe reallocate. It's a thinking exercise. And so, excuse me. So they, you know, they might have somebody that or it might be you're working with someone who wants to show their boss how they can increase ROI and job satisfaction in their new role. And the idea is it really tees up a great conversation to be able to have with a leader and a direct report so that there's a framework to the conversation. And a lot of the times the leader doesn't have that perspective of reality of how their direct report is spending their time versus maybe how they want to spend their time and how they think their time could better be spent to support the business growth. So with this tool, we encourage using something like a feelings wheel. A feelings wheel helps you put words to feelings. And so you can see here in the middle, it's like, I feel happy. Okay, well, I feel valued, kind of breaks it down to more deeper feelings that people can go deeper with. Okay, so I basically took an example of a front desk worker at a design firm and filled in how she might fill that out when she's going to present to her boss. So the first part is to really encourage them to think about their current week and select adjectives that describe the current workday, and then reflect on what they're doing across the workday. So a lot of the times you can have them like pull out their calendar and think about how they've spent their time if they can't remember. So as she's working on this, she's like, I'm feeling bored. I don't feel like I'm making a difference. I'm spending most of my time filing papers, researching things. And when she starts to think about what her ideal week looks like, she wants to work on designing interiors, sourcing vendors, and meeting with leaders. And you can have them work on the feelings wheel with this as well, like the positive adjectives. So when she thinks about what her elevated workday looks like, she's creative, interested, and motivated. So we're going from the current to the future state, and we're using feelings words and actual activities to give visuals, I think, to the story that she wants to present. So then we move further down the worksheet, and we're going to assign a percentage of time that she's spending doing impactful work that motivates her. So right now she feels like she's maybe 10% of her time she's making an impact. And if she could delegate 3 things right now that would move her towards her ideal week, elevated week, she could free up 10% more energy in that way. So a lot of the times, like, these are things they've written down that are in their current work week. They're things they might not like doing, they're not good at. And reminder here, if there's things that are repeatable, we can look at automations, we can look at building process, we can look at handing that off to someone else as a delegation. So she would free up 10% of her time if she could delegate watering the plants, filing, and doing research. And so then she finishes the worksheet, and this is the part that will really resonate with the leader. So if she freed up that work, she would have 15 hours of time left each week. And she could spend her newfound time on learning CAD, which is an architectural program, studying design trends, or building out a social media profile. And so then she takes it into a sentence like, the impact that I could make if I was able to free up my time is I could become a designer in training, and I could handle some of the more monotonous tasks for the designers that I work with to save them time. I could also start to curate our presence online to attract new customers. And then her next steps, if this were to be approved by the leader she's working with, would be look at how she would get certified for CAD, give a cost analysis, gather images for social media, and start to work on a posting schedule or coordinate a learning schedule based on what the company needs. So the end result of this form is that you've now presented this is how I feel. These are the things I'm doing. If I could spend my time doing these things, I would feel this way. If I could free up my time, the impact that I could make is this, and my next steps would be this. And so that's a much more impactful conversation than just saying, I don't love what I'm spending my time on, and I'm not really sure what I could do instead. It just sets the tone for a great conversation. So next, share. Have you seen people get stuck with this? Have you coached them through it? Or how could you maybe incorporate this into your work? Or do you have questions on the tool?
Yeah, I have a question. When do you use this with a leader that has a staff? Or do you find that you like this is a great tool to use? Because I work with solopreneurs
Mhm.
and small businesses. So does it cross over to, you're teaching an owner, a business leader how to delegate, but then also help the solopreneur delegate for themselves and
Yeah.
be their own advocate and start asking for what they need.
Yeah, so this is a great, you could have in either scenario. Let's say you perform the freedom analysis and the person is getting stuck on most impactful contribution. You could trigger them to maybe spend some time working on this kind of tool for themselves to help them sort of unpack what do they really want to spend their time on? How does that make them feel? Is that resonating? So you could use it in that way. You could also use it, let's say with the small business team that you work with, they have an employee that doesn't feel utilized or satisfied with their work, but they really don't know how to talk about it, think about it. And, entrepreneurs, if that's who you're working with, they like to be presented with solutions, right? Because of Eileen and I did a talk 2 weeks ago on decision fatigue. And so that's a real thing. And so just sort of like, "Bleh, I don't like what I'm doing." Like, okay, well, let's have a conversation about it that's impactful.
Hmm,
So you could use it that way too.
Thank
That,
you. Yes, thank you.
Eileen, do you have anything to add?
I was just going to share. So, a couple years ago, I was kind of in that boat with Emily where I was like, I don't like what I'm doing. I want to think about something different. And so this was like one of the tools that our leadership team like spent time doing. So it was really helpful for me to go back through my elevated week and think about the things that I really loved doing and felt energized by. And so as we talked about what my next role or future at Delegate looked like, we were able to kind of talk through that a little more specifically. And so that helped shape where I am today because I was able to kind of like think through those things that I cared about and really loved doing. So it's a really helpful exercise for you or others just to really like wrap your head around. I need to process. I can't just, I'm not an idea person. I'm not just going to throw out. I have to think through it and process, and that allowed me to really process in a clearer way.
Nice.
Right. All right. I want to respect your time. So I see we are almost done. We have one more tool. And this is called the delegation template. And so this is really great to use with clients or leaders who maybe they'll say, I don't think I'm a good delegator, or I don't even know how to have someone help me with this. Or I've tried to delegate in the past and every time I do, it blows up in my face. It costs me more time.
Nobody listens to me.
Yeah. Or like they have no awareness on how to actually hand you something, right? And so
Right. Oh, yes. Oh, perfect example. Yep.
and it's like blowing up in your face and it's making
Yep.
you look like you're not delivering.
Yeah.
Um,
Wow. That's a good one.
yeah, this is the tool that we use internally at Delegate when we delegate to each other. So
Mhm.
like this is used every day in real life for many years now. But it's great for clients who really need a framework or something to start with to get them practice.
Yeah, I love it. These are great templates.
Thank you. So in this, the way that you would coach someone through this is, tell me what is the task, right? I need you to research hotels in Portugal. Okay, great. Okay, so then next thing is, when is it due by? Due by Friday. How long do you think I need to, how long do you want me to spend on this? Is there a cap? And they'll say, 20 minutes, an hour, whatever. Just get them thinking because that's going to create the alignment on what you're thinking and what they're thinking, which is the goal of this exercise. So find me hotels in Portugal by Friday, spend up to an hour. Perfect. Then we're going to go to the next part, which is set the expectations of end result. So we call this internally like success criteria. What has to be true when this task is complete? So they need to be in the Barrow section of Lisbon. I prefer a Hilton property. I need to be able to park my car there. I want you to put it in a spreadsheet for me with links and price. Okay. And I need to give you the dates that I'm going to be in Portugal. Okay. So they just fill in what has to be true for this to be complete. And then the next part is, are they going to need access? Meaning the assistant going to need access in order to do this. So maybe it's like, yeah, oh yeah, they're going to need access to my Hilton Honors account, or they're going to need my passport number or something like that. So it just prompts them to anticipate what they might need before they delegate to you. And then the last part is to set the expectations on the deliverables. So when they're done Friday, after an hour, do you want them to just assess and research before they do anything about it? Do you want them to give you updates as they're going, like, hey, started, found 5 great options, still narrowing it down? Or do you want them to just go ahead and pick one based on your criteria and tell you that it's booked? In which case they would need your credit card, of course. And then share your why. So a lot of the times from the assistant standpoint, as you know, it helps when we understand bigger picture. So why does this matter? How is this going to help you? So I would say to that, my first vacation in many years, I'm really looking forward to it. And I hate having to figure out these kinds of details, but I have a picture in my head of what matters. And I'm going to get to spend 2 weeks with my family in Spain, right? And so that just paints a more broad, useful picture of the impact of the task. So that is the delegation template. It looks like this. And it's just a great thing to start to do with people that are really stuck with how to actually delegate to you. So questions or experience shares?
I love it. I
How
love
do you, Maria? You're very fun.
you know why? Because I function so much better when I know what the expectations are.
Mhm.
Right? People can delegate. I mean, some people can delegate, but they miss the piece of giving you the details, which drives me crazy.
And sets you up for failure.
Yeah, because like I want to get to work, so I want to know your expectations. So this saves a lot of time going back and forth with emails and texts about questions about the specific project that you just put me on.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this is real helpful. Is it a pad that we can purchase, or how?
I love that idea.
Is it, I mean, like I'm picturing this, you know, just a pad, like a check off pad.
Oh, but I think we're gonna have to do that now. It's really smart.
So is this a downloadable that we can purchase, or is it a giveaway, or how does this work?
Yeah, it's a giveaway.
Yeah, I'll send it out in the post email, Maria, after.
Okay, cool.
I was going to add to one thing to point out is with that section on expectations around turnaround time. If you're the person delegating something and it happens to be something that's reoccurring, I love that particular section, because as you're thinking about, okay, I need to hand off travel to a coworker or another assistant on the team or whatever that looks like, and I know that I'm spending 5 hours a week, I can set that expectation. And then as we're determining who's taking over that delegation, we can determine if they have that capacity to even take over that particular project or task. And so it allows you to like set that expectation that at bare minimum, this is probably what they could expect on a weekly basis or monthly basis to be spending on this particular type of work. And so if they don't have the capacity, that opens up the conversation to like next steps and how we get them to that.
Yeah.
take it over. So
I mean, you're not going to believe this. I was thinking about that today. Like I was looking back at how somebody, like how I can improve what just happened over the past 3 months when somebody hands me a folder and says, here's a bunch of grants that we got money for. You can research this. You can research these, these grants. And then like, that was it. So I'm thinking to myself, like, there's still a lot of work to do. And I'm kind of sitting on my hands waiting for somebody to tell me, okay, there's more time allotted for grant work. So why don't we talk about that? So like, just this helps me to look ahead and go, okay, they're giving me this task. How long do they want me on it? Because they can't delegate, which is why they need me.
exactly.
You can verbally do this too. So like if you have a leader that they're never going to sit down and fill out a form, just say, okay, let me just prompt you.
Yes, exactly. That's what I'm thinking of. I work for a nonprofit and the president, the founder, great woman doing great things, but very, very challenging because she doesn't know how to delegate. So it's been 16 years that they've been a nonprofit and they've done great things, but it's the first time she's had an administrative assistant. So like I'm teaching her how to use me.
You should have her come to our elevation quarter class because that's what we teach leaders how to do. And you could still service her, but teach her how to be a better delegator if that's something she's interested in.
And when does that happen?
We have some different sessions. So we have what we call our masterclass version in our 6-week cohorts. We have a masterclass, which is 2 half-day sessions starting in August. And then our next 6-week cohort doesn't start until October currently. But I could send you those dates, Maria.
Okay. Yeah, I would like to have her look at it.
Yeah.
I mean, this is where, all this content comes from my book, and the elevation quarter class that Eileen runs is based on the book, which is a lot of these tools, but it's presented in like a classroom setting where it's a cohort of leaders that are all trying to figure out how to master delegation, and they learn from each other. So it's really great for that struggle.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, they learn from each other as well as from the curriculum. It's nice that they have that time together to interact and know they're not alone in trying to figure it out, understand it.
Right. Wow, what a great service. And Let It Go is like, how is it on Amazon? Are you self-published?
On Amazon.
Okay.
Eileen can get you the link. And we have it as Audible where I read the book, and we have Kindle, and
I love Audible.
yeah.
This is Audible.
If you are, and I don't know how many clients you work with, but we have bulk discounts too, if that's something that you wanted to send out to people. I think it's kind of good because you work in delegation.
That would be a nice gift. Like when I mean, right now I work for a nonprofit and I work for a carpeting and flooring company. And then I have a few of my own clients, but I'm just getting my website done. I'm getting my newsletter done. And it's like, I'm ready to expand because I have time, a good time. So, and one of the marketing tools to use is, of course, when you get a new client, is to send them a nice little gift, in the mail with, so that would be a nice gift.
Well, Eileen can share the bulk purchase link too, if
Okay.
in the follow-up email.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kelly or Amber, do you have any questions? Anything you wanted to talk through with the tools?
Hey everyone, I don't. Just listening. Maria, thank you for participating and giving some great
Sure.
points to the conversation. It was great to hear about it.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, I will leave you here and Eileen's going to take back the combo, but thank you for having me. And it was great to meet you, Maria and Amber.
Thank you, Emily. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Emily. We appreciate it. Well, I'm going to stop the recording. So at this point,